Hi, folks. Wanted to share with you a little bonus video today. If you hadn't noticed yet, Adobe has made a few changes in the May 2023 edition of Photoshop. They've released a new amazing tool that I want to share with you, and also have added a new little contextual taskbar that kind of moves around your screen. So I wanted to kind of bring you up to date on those and kind of let you know how those work and kind of where you can use, in particular, the new AI-powered remove tool. Well, the first thing, just to kind of get it out of the way, you may have noticed in the latest version of Photoshop that Adobe has added this contextual taskbar. I believe it usually starts off down somewhere near the bottom of your screen, but it's this little floating taskbar. It's a contextual taskbar in the sense that depending on the tool that you're using, it gives you shortcuts for doing things with that particular tool. So it's kind of like the taskbar that we have, or the options bar at the top of the screen, but it's just kind of shortcuts for things that you might be doing with a particular tool. It's a floating toolbar, and it kind of tends to follow where you're working in your image, and usually that's okay, but sometimes I find that it's kind of annoying and in the way, being over top of the image. So if you don't like it on top of your image, you can click on the little handle here, the little white vertical bar, and drag it to where you'd like it positioned. So I'm going to drag it up here into the sort of the taskbar or the options bar area of my Photoshop workspace, and then click the three little dots here, the ellipsis button, and choose to pin the bar position. And what that does is kind of locks it into place. So it kind of keeps it out of the way. You know, if I'm doing certain things where I need that contextual taskbar, I'll unpin it and let it follow the cursor around. So that just kind of gets that out of the way for us for now. But the thing that I really wanted to share with you is this new tool called the Remove tool. It's think of it as kind of a super-powered spot healing and healing brush tool all combined into one, and content-aware fill. It's a pretty remarkable tool the way it works. In the latest version of Photoshop, you're going to find it grouped with the other healing tools, so the spot healing tool, healing brush, patch tool, so on. If you're not seeing it there, make sure that you're updated to the most recent version of Photoshop. Also, if that still doesn't get it there for whatever reason, you can go to the Edit menu, down to Toolbar, and this allows you to customize your toolbar. You may find that for whatever reason, it's over here in the right-hand side under Extra Tools. Well, if you scroll down to where you'll find the healing group of tools here, mine's already there. But if you see the Remove tool over on the right-hand side, you can just simply click it and drag it over to where you want it in your toolbar. So the most logical place is grouped with the other healing tools. So you can just drag and drop it in there and rearrange these. You can also change keyboard shortcuts here if you want to. But when you've done that, then go ahead and click Done. Again, this is only if it's not already showing in the group, the healing tool group here. Okay. So when we've got the Remove tool there, it is a brush tool, just like other brush tools. You can change the size of it with the bracket keys. The right bracket enlarges it, the left bracket makes it smaller. And what it allows us to do is to paint away areas that we want to remove. Now you might think, well, John, doesn't the spot healing brush and the healing brush and content aware fill, don't those already do that? Yes, they do. But I think what you'll find is that the Remove tool tends to do it better in most cases. One of the things that we'll sometimes find, especially with the spot healing and healing brush, is that if you have issues of depth of field or detailed texture, sometimes those tools don't get it right, and they'll leave sort of weird artifacts behind. The new Remove tool does a much better job in those situations. I'm going to kind of zoom in here on this image. This is the Allen County Courthouse in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and there's a bunch of distractions here. There's the landscaping vehicles, and there's people walking around. There's cars where I don't necessarily want them to be, things like this. They're kind of distractions. And there's any number of ways that we could remove these, of course, in Photoshop. And I'm going to concentrate on the Remove tool. So there's not a lot of options related to the Move tool. Kind of like the spot healing and healing brush tools, I do recommend that you work with them generally on a blank layer, which makes it easier to undo them if you don't like the results. So I'm going to come over here to the layer panel and add a new layer, just a blank layer. Let's just label that Remove tool. And we'll work on that layer. Now, just like the other healing tools, if we do that, we want to be sure that in the options bar for this tool that we tick the checkbox that says sample all layers. That allows us to work on this empty layer, and it samples the data from the image layer below it without applying the healing directly to the image layer. So the only other thing that you might want to pay attention to is this option here to remove after each stroke. If this checkbox is checked, it works much like the spot healing brush. So for example, if I want to remove these people, let's zoom in there a little bit, remove these people. With that remove after each stroke checked, I can paint these away like so, and when I lift up on my mouse button, or in this case my pen tablet, it does its magic. Seems like it might take a little bit longer than the spot healing, but it does a much better job, so it's worth the wait. Same thing here. We'll try this little group of people here. I'll just kind of paint those away. When I lift up the mouse button or my pen tablet, they're gone. Okay. The difference here, if I check the remove, or rather uncheck the remove after each stroke, what it does is it waits until I hit this little check mark or hit the enter or return key to actually do its magic. So let's do a couple of things here. So I'm going to paint away this guy who's maybe working on the windows. I've lifted up my pen. I'm going to paint away this ladder. And let's see what else. We'll paint away this person. Make sure we get their shadow as well. Notice that it's not doing anything each time I lift the mouse button. So paint away some of these other distractions here, all in kind of one sitting. Okay, and none of this has been applied yet until I tick the check mark here. That's the apply check mark. Or I can hit the return or enter key, which I'll go ahead and do. And you'll notice that all of those things get applied at once. Watch, they all go away. And you look at that. Man, that's just amazing. Let's zoom back in there to that window. Look at that. It figured out the windowsill. Here, let's turn that layer off for a second. See how it had to build that whole windowsill and this whole area around the edge of the window. It got rid of the shadow, the line of the grass. Let's turn that back on. Look how clean and perfect that is. So this is more than just sampling the area around the image like the spot healing and healing brush do. This is actually artificial intelligence analyzing the image and trying to figure out how to replace things that are maybe hidden by elements that you're trying to remove. Let's try something a little more involved, a little more complex, maybe a little bigger portion of the image. Now, normally for something this large, like removing this landscaping truck and trailer, we might do something like content-aware fill. So I'll use the lasso tool. I'll make a selection of the truck and the trailer and include a little bit of the grass there to give it something to work with. And we'll go to Edit, Content-Aware Fill, the newer version, more advanced version. And what this allows us to do is, what you see in green here is to control the area that Photoshop samples from to replace the selected area. And you can see in the preview image here with the default settings, it's not done a great job. I mean, it's gotten rid of the truck and trailer, but there's a lot of artifacts there. It just doesn't look very good. So let's paint away some of the areas that I don't want it to sample from. I don't really want it to sample the grass. I don't want it to sample the tree, this area here. So I'm just kind of painting away this green, kind of controlling where Photoshop can draw from, and it's still not doing a great job. You can see in the preview here, yeah, it changes a little bit, but it's really not doing a very good job with this method. So, that might be that's even worse. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. So that might be our go-to method typically, but it's not really going to work very well in this case. So let's get rid of that selection. We'll go back to our remove layer here, our blank layer, and I'm going to use that remove tool again. And I'm going to go ahead and leave remove after each stroke unchecked so that I can paint and I can lift up my brush if I need to, or my cursor, paint all this away. And I'm going to go ahead and include a little bit of the grassy area here as well, and some of the sidewalk. Okay. All right, so I've kind of painted that pink area there is what you see. I'm going to go ahead and click the check mark here, or hit enter or return, and let it do its magic here. And let's see how well it does. I haven't tried it on this one. That's pretty good. It's not perfect. You can see we've got some grassy texture coming over there. Let's redo that. I'm going to try it again and maybe take a little bit less. Here, let's just try getting just the trailer. Let's just try the trailer by itself here. Return or enter. And no, that's not very good either. Let's try a little more. So sometimes you got to do it more than once. Sometimes you got to try it a couple different ways to see how it's going to work here. Let's try that. Enter, return. And sometimes you have to, now we're getting somewhere. Now, sometimes you have to take it in steps. So you can see that it did a really good job of building most of that edging between the grass and the sidewalk here. But there's a little area right here that it struggled with. So I'm going to go ahead and paint over that area a second pass here and hit enter or return. See what it does. It's not, no, well, okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's kind of continued the lines of the sidewalk. Let's maybe try one more pass here, that little area. Okay, we're going to go with that. So here's the whole image. Now, if you didn't know there was a truck there, you wouldn't think to look there. Let's try one more in this area here. We're going to try this truck and its trailer. Yeah, unfortunately, when I flew this this mission here, I had no control over who was there that morning. So it's a lot of work in Photoshop to kind of remove those distractions, kind of pretty this up. Okay, so you can see there it left some remnants behind, but it got the bulk of the work done. So we're just going to go ahead and touch each of these. Notice I have remove after each stroke unchecked here, so it's not doing anything until I make all my selections here. And then I'll hit enter or return. See how it does. Yeah, there we go. Maybe we can even clean up this little bit here. Enter, return. And there we go. There we go. Now, let's try something maybe a little more complicated. So there's these light posts along the sidewalk, okay, street lights. There's this van or whatever it is being unloaded here, and I'd like to get rid of that, but I want to keep the street lights. Now, the issue here, of course, is that the light post is casting a shadow. So let's see if I paint away the van. Let's see if Photoshop can figure out how to remove that and replace the light post shadow. There, go ahead and hit enter or return. Oh, look at that. Would you look at that? That's amazing. That is simply amazing. So you can see the power of this tool. And again, this is becoming my go-to tool for things that I would have traditionally used the spot healing brush or the healing brush for. Now, there are some more complex things that maybe it doesn't do as well. I think about using this in lieu of the spot healing brush or the healing brush as your go-to tool for removing these sorts of little distractions in an image. So to get this tool, of course, you have to upgrade to the absolute latest version of Photoshop. So just go to your Creative Cloud app, make sure your Photoshop is up to date, and you should have that tool. All right, well, let me know what you think. Message me, add a note in the comments, something like that. Let me know what you think of this new remove tool.